That China is indulging in an open mischief against India is obvious. It is seeking to change the names of some places in Arunachal Pradesh, thus wanting to stamp its own claim on Arunachal Pradesh, which is state in the Indian Union, which is a sovereign country with full rights to decide upon internal matters with its borders. It was only expected that India rejected the Chinese overture fully and totally. China also knows that tough stand India has on such issues. Yet, as part of its traditional method of keep needling India every now and then and thus keep India disturbed, it has this time tired to rename some places in Arunachal Pradesh, which is an integral part of India. Through such pranks, China often tries to instigate India into some action that could draw extreme outcomes. By now, however, India has learned its lessons correctly and respond to various Chinese overtures as per the situation. When China tried to rename some places in Arunachal Pradesh this time, India issued terse rejection of the India and communicated to China that it would tolerate no such nonsense. Para. India has learned its military lessons as well as can be seen from many instances in the past few years. Whenever and wherever China tries to intrude into India territory at God forsaken places in the Himalayas, Indian troops offer a steep opposition and almost always drive in the Chinese back with a force that the Chinese often find it difficult to counter. The stories of Indian valor and verve have now begun spreading all over the world, making the so called invincible Chinese army look like a dehydrated force. The world has also come to know by now that the Indian debacle in 1962 against the invading Chinese army took place only because the Indian leadership cowered under the Chinese propagandism its own strength. The reality is now known to the world that in less than 15 days the Indian army regrouped itself into an invisible force and started driving the Chinese invaders back. It was then that the Chinese stopped their aggression just to avoid the ignominy of defeat at the hands of the brave Indian army. Para. If China had not withdrawn its aggression, the Indian forces would have sent the aggressor packing, for until then the government has become amenable to the idea of using the Indian Air Force. If that had happened in an authentic manner, India could have avoided the disrepute of a crushing defeat. But even in those so called bad times, the Indian Army acquitted itself with a rare aplomb and toughness that has found no equal in the world since then. In the past some years, India has confronted China with tremendous power packed in its moves, whether military or diplomatic or economic. In India, thus, China has found its equal in every which the way. The biggest dent to the so called Chinese supremacy came during the COVID pandemic when China reeled under the weight of coronavirus and India showed its powers in handling the crisis, complete with vaccines that became the mainstay of light against pandemic the world over. Now, when China tries to indulge in overtures such as the latest one in Arunachal Pradesh, India has a real time response to the Chinese nonsense. This has become a common knowledge now. China's biggest trouble is that whatever it does, India has a tough response to it, and each time it's indulged in something nonsensical, the world expects India to give the Chinese a befitting answer. Exactly the same thing has happened now as well, with Indian rejecting Chinese attempt of renaming places in Indian land outright. This response from India has a local then and their spirit, so to say, and that unavers China all the more. You have put much effort and experience toward getting to this day. Make the way you live it worth all the trouble. Today is an opportunity created for you by all those who came before you and supported by those who now surround you. Make something good and useful and lasting out of the opportunity. The future begins today for everyone you care about, for everyone who impacts your life, and for you. Live the moments of this day so as to create value that endures into the future. You have your challenges and the world has its problems, but those are not reasons to sell yourself short. On the contrary, they are good reasons to work for positive results every chance you get. Para. Some much has gone into where you are and what you can do. This is when you can create real and significant value from it. Today is a new day with unlimited possibilities. Whatever limitation have you back in the past.